So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZWGames5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube, Dad himself 4 Games, bringing you, as you can see, an updated Dark Magician deck profile with, of course, Thanos Dragon. Now, Thanos Dragon is not its official name. I'm not even going to try to attempt its fantastical dragon, Phantasme. So I'm going to stick with Thanos Dragon. It's a lot easier for me to go through, especially when I'm going to mention it so much throughout this video. Now, do not worry about this. Some of the cards we're using here that are of more expensive value, I will talk to you about alternatives in the deck that you can play in place of those cards. So, without further ado, let me get started and take you through this deck profile. And there are some seriously spicy touches in this deck as well that are going to keep you going back to your Dark Magician. So, we'll get past the standard stuff of triple Dark Magician, triple Magician's Rod, double Magician of Dark Illusion, double Apprentice. Now, that is all straightforward and simple. This is where the spice starts to kick in. So, of course, we've got triple Thanos Dragon. Now, the reason this is so good is it is dark. It is level 7, and it helps put dead cards that you want to be drawing out of your deck back into your deck. It's very, very good, and it can also protect stuff from targeting effects as well. So very, very good on that one, and it combos off nicely with the next card, and that is Keeper of Dragon Magic. Now, not to mention that Thanos Dragon is also a dragon. It works very, very well with the Poly spell in order to turn your Dark Magician and itself into one of your extra deck dragon fusions of Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. Now, what you've got to keep in mind when you are doing this is when you're going into Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, that of course meets a lot of requirements of the deck and is treated as Dark Magician itself, so it protects the board as long as it's under Eternal Soul as well. Now, of course, Keeper of Dragon Magic is very, very good in order to set the Dark Magician from your graveyard. The reason this is so good is we do play the virus cards in this deck, mainly Eradicator and Grave Grinning. Now, when you are surprised when I mention Grave Grinning, wait till I get to it, I'll explain it, and it will make a hell of a lot more sense to you. So, the last bit of spicy tech in the monsters is one Palladium Oracle Mahad. Now, the reason this is now better or more viable in this deck is because Thanos Dragon can shuffle it back into the deck and then you draw it again. The worst thing about this was opening up in your opening hand, it was a total dead card. You could not do anything with it. Now, we have the ability to put it back into the deck and then draw it back again for our standby phases, stack it with Dark Magical Circle, or of course the new pop card of Extravagance that we play in the deck as well. Alternatively to your fantastical dragon Phantasme or Thanos Dragon, you can put in a third Keeper of Dragon Magic. You could also put in Fet Veilers, Ash Blossoms when they come out on the 14th of February as a nice budget touch. You've also got Chocolate Magician Girl as well as a nice touch in this deck as an alternative to Phantasm Dragon. Now obviously it doesn't do as much as the dragon does, but it's still another alternative in the monster lineup to help you out with the consistency of the deck. Moving on to the spells, of course, standard Dark Magical Circle, triple Call by the Grave. You want all of your effects to go off as much as they possibly can, and double, if not triple, Pot of Extravagance. Now, the reason Pot of Extravagance is so good in this deck is they do not rely on their extra deck as much. You may lose some of your power plays in there, but it is not the end of the world as they do have a lot of main deck threats to play around with. Plus, the draw 2 was better than banishing 10 off of Desires. The issue that it locks you out of drawing for the rest of the turn is not an issue because your Dark Magical Circle adds. If you were to play Pot of Duality in this deck, it adds. Alternatively, if you do not have a Extravagance or you don't want to play Extravagance, you can play, like I said, Allure of Darkness because the Phantasmal Dragon or the Thanos Dragon is a dark. Alternatively, you could play Sword of Sacred 7 stars or whatever the one is where it banishes a level 7 or higher. If you were to do that, I'd probably put play stuff like Back to the Front or the Return from a Dark Dimension, the one that basically is a Call of the Grave, Call by the Grave, Call of the Haunted, I'll get there eventually, for banished cards. So that is another option there. Monster Reborn, very, very powerful in this deck. And of course the one polymerization that you search off of the Dragon Knight and gives you a bit more alternative because you can use monsters in your hand as well. So if you've got a bit of a bricky hand and you've got a Dark Magician in there and you've got a Thanos Dragon but you've got no way of getting it out, Poly helps you straight out, poly those two away, go straight into your Dragon Knight and your board can start being built. That's it for the spells, and then additional spice to come in for the traps. Of course, we've got triple trap trick. Now, I know this has gone up in price. Alternatives to this is, of course, you just bump up your normal traps, and once we get to them, I'll say which ones you can bump up. Triple Magician's Navigation, quite straightforward and simple on that one. Triple Impermanence, these can be replaced with Effect Veilers if you wish, but this is mainly here for a turn 0 play off of your Magician of Dark Illusion, plus it is also searchable off of your trap tricks. So for example, if your opponent had you under an Imperial Order or an anti-spell fragrance, you could trigger trap tricks, set this in the exact same column as that card, then flip the impermanence to turn off the card in the same column, and that allows your plays to move further forward. Then finally, for the normal traps we can search on for trap trick is of course Eradicator Epidemic Virus. This is very, very good against Autogeist and Strikers, but it also comes down to depending on what you feel you're going to be facing most of at your locals, your big event, whichever you're taking this deck to, keep in mind, and that is where your ratios between Grinning Grave Virus and Eradicator will play effect. Now, Eradicator, quite straightforward on that one. Tribute off your Dark Magician, nuke your opponent's back row, whether it be spell or traps. Strikers, take out their spells, they can't play for 3 turns. Autogeist, take out their traps, they probably can't play for 3 turns. Now, Grinning Grave Virus is your alternative against dangers. Now, the reason this is so good against dangers is tribute 1 Dark Monster with 3,000 or less attack. So Dark Magician at 2,500, which of course, if you set it off of your Dragon Keeper, it's a free tribute. Very, very good and powerful. Anyway, your opponent destroys 1 card of their choice in their hand or deck for every 500 attack that monster had on the field. If you tributed a monster with 2,000 or more attack, to activate this card, look at all cards your opponent draws until the end of your 3rd turn after this card's activation and destroy all monsters among them. Cards destroyed and sent to the graveyard by this card's effects cannot activate their own effects the same turn. So, you tribute off Dark Magician. That means your opponent is destroying 5 monsters in their danger deck. Destroying 5 monsters in their danger deck would then result in them being able to not use those certain cards they choose to destroy. On top of that, once you've tributed off your Dark Magician, you are going to see all cards they draw. So when they're activating the Danger's effect, once the danger is summoned, the draw will then get destroyed. That then makes that danger null and void. So all of their draws are now negs because they're not going to be plussing back off of their dangers. Alternatively to that, if you were to destroy the card in hand, and let's say it was a Chupacabra or a Nessie or anything like that, they could then not reveal the Nessie or the Chupacabra, should they have one in hand, in order to extend their boards even further. So you really do put them in a bad situation with Grinning Grave. I looked at the other virus cards, and the issue I had with those is one was 15 or less defense and one was 15 or less attack, if I've read them correctly. I probably should know these better. I've got my trap binder right over here. I'll make sure I read them properly. So it's 15 or less, 15k or less attack, or 15 or less defense. So against dangers, it didn't really hit a huge amount. Now, obviously, Deck Devi would leave them with Tornado Bird, Bigfoot, Nessie. It would also leave them with, I believe the new one is above 1500 attack as well. Hitting the defense-wise, it would leave Nessie alive, it would leave Jackalope alive. I'm pretty sure Chupacabra gets hit by both of them, but that's not really the most important one to be hit. So when I checked over Grinning Grave, it did seem like the best possible fit for this deck. Very, very useful, and can really cause your opponent a lot of issues. The fact that it turns off their effects, the fact that it destroys them, the fact that it stops their draw destructions as well. If they're drawing monsters all day long, you're just going to go cool, pop, 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 and that is going to last for 3 turns. So every time they were to activate a Danger's effect in hand, Grinning Grave triggers, locks them out of the graveyard effect for the rest of the turn. So they reveal one, it summons, you destroy it. It summons, they draw a card, you destroy the draw card, they're negating already off of that, and then if that monster is one they've already got in hand, they're at a double neg as well. So, let's finish talking about the viruses because it's a very, very nice touch in this deck. It works quite nicely as well. We finish off with, of course, double Eternal Soul. Quite straightforward and self-explanatory on that one. Moving on to the extra deck. Oh, sorry guys. Moving on to the extra deck, once I pick up the card off the floor. Again, the extra deck isn't as heavily reliable, just purely because you're playing your pot of Extravagance. If you're not going to play Extravagance, then you can build your extra deck a little bit differently. I'm going to save this guy till last because he's probably one of the most important ones in the extra deck, unlike in previous times. So of course we'll start with the fusions because we've only got two. Two Dragon Magician, the Dragon Knight. Now the reason we've got two of this is because if we do banish one or send one off of Extravagance, we do have another one to play around with. It is very, very powerful, very, very useful. If you did want to bump up Iotomias or put more polys in it, it'll become more efficient. If you were going to put Iotomias, of course you could go into your Dark Paladin as well. Onto the Link monsters, of course we've got the one Link Spider to go around with the Dark Magician and Eternal Soul Loop. YUGIOH to boost all of your Dark monsters, and then they all become, or the majority of them will then become virus targets. Phoenix to deal with any spell or trap back row removal. Unicorn again for a nice little spin back. Summon Sorceress, very rarely can you go into it. It's not as consistent in this build as it has been in previous builds, but still very, very useful and powerful. The one Nightmare Cerberus as your alternative to Phoenix if you need to destroy like an Ultimate Conductor Tyranno or something like that. Then you've got Boral Sword and Boral Load. Again, do not worry about any of these. Only really worry about the budget ones, which are these 5 here. These are the more important ones. These are the ones you don't really want to be banishing. These are just your power plays, less so the Cerberus, but these are just your power plays to extend your board and move it further forward. These are the ones that you really do need to pay attention for, and that is of course your number 11 Big Eye, very, very good, standard rank 7. Red Eye's Flare, very, very nice to burn your opponent out in time. Standard double Ibon Illusion. And then the most important card in the extra deck, and I never thought I'd say this, Ibon High Magician. Now, the reason Ibon High Magician is so important is if you were to have this guy on board, and then you had another Thanos Dragon in hand, let's say you summon the Thanos Dragon, you draw into a couple of your traps. Now, by drawing into a couple of traps, you could technically activate Grinning Grave from hand, Eradicator from hand, Impermanence from hand while you control a monster, Navigation from hand, or of course Trap Trick from hand. You can play any of these 5 cards from hand if you have an Ibon High Magician on board. So he is very, very useful if you were to be drawing into your cards while you can't get them set on the field. He is incredibly powerful. So, for those of you who don't know, while this card has XYZ material, you can activate quick play spell cards or a trap card from your hand during your opponent's turn by detaching 1 XYZ from this card at activation. If this XYZ summon card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, or if this XYZ card you control is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, especially on 1 dark spellcaster monster from your hand or deck, then you can destroy 1 card on the field. Now obviously he's not a Eradicator target because he doesn't have 25 or more attack. He's better off used as a Grinning Grave, Impermanence, Navigation or Trap Trick. But then again, if you do have an Eradicator set, you play the Navigation, get your Dark Magician out, Bob's your uncle, happy days. What you've got to remember about the Ibon High though is it does require 2 level 7 spellcasters, so you've got to be very, very careful when you're playing the Phantasmal Dragon or the Thanos Dragon out on board. Now, that is it for the deck profile. I hope this makes sense for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do have any questions about making it more budget or just ways of playing around with it, do let me know. There are still ways of this deck that I am tweaking and playing around with. I want to be looking at duality. I want to be looking at just more kind of tech cards. As you can see, the spell count in the deck as well is very, very low. The side deck will be your standard hand traps should you need it. The reason we don't play this in there anymore as well is because, I mean, it's still very, very good, but it's too slow in my opinion in this build. There's more that this build can offer than that at a bit more pace with the new cards we put in it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Like I said, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below or send them to us on our Facebook page. The link will be in the description below. But as always, guys, happy dueling. What's up, YouTube? Dan here from YUGIOH. Thanks for watching that video. If you liked it, please hit that big thumbs up button in the bottom corner as well. And don't forget to hit the big red subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Make sure you click that notification bell as well so you know every time one of our new videos goes up. Throughout the whole year of 2019, we're going to have more deck profiles, duels, and of course pack openings for you guys to watch and enjoy the entire year round. So stay tuned for more, and as always guys, happy dueling.